Krishna Chandra Bhagwan ki. Are you all eager to listen to the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam Mahapuran?
Yes!
Let's all express it with a loud Jaykara. Boliye Vrindavan Bihari Lal ki. Yesterday we had sat down with 88,000 sages in the forest of Naimisharanya and along with them listened to Sutaji expound on topics of knowledge and also hear from him how his Guru Shukadev became the Vakta, the propagator of the Srimad Bhagavat. But the listener, the Shrota, how did he develop? That story was left incomplete. When Lord Krishna departed to Dwarka from Hastinapur, a few months later, Uttara gave birth to Pariksit. We had reached this point yesterday. Yudhishthira was ruling Hastinapur now as a righteous and dharmic king. He was the avatar of Dharmaraj. And in accordance with the magnanimity of his personality, he was giving the maximum love, respect and protection to Dhritarashtra. That Dhritarashtra whose sons had tormented him, Yudhishthira ignored the entire episode. And Dhritarashtra was living in the palace on the succor presented by Yudhishthira. Now Vidur, Chacha Vidur, when he had come to know that the battle of Mahabharata is imminent, he had departed from Hastinapur. He said, I will be on neither side. And when he came to know the battle is over, he returned for a little while. He was welcomed in Hastinapur by Yudhishthira. And he stayed in the palace. There, when he saw Dhritarashtra still in Deha, attached to the body, he scolded his elder brother in extremely piercing words. My dear brother, Dhritarashtra, how attached can you be to this world? That Yudhishthira whom you tormented to no end and whom your children tried to kill in various ways. Today you are dependent upon the same Yudhishthira for your maintenance. Just like a dog lives on the food given by the master, the crumbs that Yudhishthira is giving, they are your subsistence. Fie upon such a life. The words had a huge impact on Dhritarashtra. That night, Dhritarashtra, the blind king, and his wife Gandhari, who used to tie a blindfold over her eyes, they, in the midst of the night, walked out without informing anybody. Vidur, of course, knew. He walked away with them. The three of them went off into the forest. Now there, Dhritarashtra, he sat down to practice spirituality. And he was in fact an elevated soul from past lives. So in a few days, he attained Samadhi. And subsequently, he manifested Yogagni from his body and decimated his body and departed. The chaste Gandhari, she committed sati by entering the fire that had manifested from her husband's dead body, and Vidur left from there. But the night that they departed, the next morning, Yudhishthir came to know that his uncles and auntie are no longer there in the palace. He was extremely distraught. Did I not take care of them very well? Was there some deficiency in my service to them? When Narad ji came, Narad said, Yudhishthir, don't you worry. They have gone to practice the sadhana for eternal welfare, and their departing from the palace is the appropriate thing to do. You continue to do your duties. So after the departure of his elder brother, Dhritarashtra, Vidur continued his pilgrimage. We will meet him again in the Bhagavatam in a little while. In the meantime, let's see what transpired in Hastinapur. The years went by under the righteous reign of Yudhishthir. Pariksit had become a 15-year-old, the grandson of the Pandavas. Arjun had gone off to meet Sri Krishna in Dwarka once again. Out here, Yudhishthir started seeing ominous signs that some great disaster had taken place. Yudhishthir consulted Bhimsen, what is the matter? The clouds come, but they don't rain. In the morning itself, the donkeys start braying and the horses start barking. The cows don't give milk. The calves have no desire to drink. It seems to me that something really bad has taken place. Is it that the shelter of our lives and our biggest treasure, Lord Krishna, has departed from the earth? Arjun had gone to meet him. Where is Arjun? In the meantime, Arjun was returning. When Yudhishthir saw him, he found that Arjun was dragging his feet. His face was ashen. The luster had disappeared. Arjun's eyes were downcast. Yudhishthir said, my dear brother, what is the matter? Have you committed a big sin? Have you eaten without feeding the women and the children? Have you burned a goshala? What is the matter? Why are you so downcast? How is Vasudev? How is Devaki? How is Ugrasen? And how is our dear Sri Krishna Chandra? Arjun spoke up. He said, my dear elder brother, the people whom you have named, Ugrasen, Vasudev, Devaki, they all have left the planet, and so has Sri Krishna, by the power of whom the whole world was fearful of my Gandiv bow. On his departure, that bow has become powerless, and the thieves on the way, they stole from me. The moment Kunti heard that Sri Krishna has left the planet, Kunti immediately decided that now there is no point living any further. She left her body right at that moment and departed. Out there, Yudhishthir became extremely pensive. He started contemplating when, with the departure of Sri Krishna, Kali Yuga has now started. Bhimsen was explaining about the crimes that are being committed in the kingdom. And Yudhishthir said, yes, I knew it. So Yudhishthira then handed over the kingdom to Pariksit and he left. So this is the Swargarohan along with Yudhishthira left the Pandavas and Draupadi. The Swargarohan Leela of the Pandavas is mentioned in detail in the Mahabharata. It is not there in detail in the Srimad Bhagavatam Mahapuran because that knowledge doesn't fit into the sequence, so we will proceed further. Pariksit now became king of Hastinapur. He performed many Ashwamedh Yagyas, and he too, in accordance with the tradition of his ancestors, ruled as a great, noble, powerful, and righteous king, under whom the citizens were peaceful. One day Pariksit had gone to inspect his kingdom, as the kings of yore used to do. He found a bull that had 3 legs broken. It was moving around on its only one intact leg. And there was a cow that was crying by the side of the bull. The bull was the personification of Dharma. Dharma has 4 legs: Satya, Daya, Tapasya, and Shuchi. Satya means truthfulness. Daya means compassion. Tapasya means austerity. And Shuchi means cleanliness. So 3 legs of Dharma were broken. It was standing on 1 leg. The cow was the earth personified. The cow was crying. And Pariksit came close. He heard the conversation between the bull and the cow. The bull said to the cow, "Why are you crying? Are you seeing my miseries and that is making you miserable?" The bull tried to console the cow. What is happiness and what is distress? One person is unhappy because he's only got a 3-bedroom house while his friend has a 5-bedroom house. One person is happy because while sleeping on the footpath, somebody put a blanket over him. One person is unhappy because he cannot digest the badam barfi. And one person is happy because he's got a dry roti to eat. Happiness and unhappiness is all in the mind. The bull was explaining to the cow. In the meantime, one evil-looking man, he came and with a stick he started hitting the only intact leg of the bull. Pariksit was horrified. In front of a Kshatriya warrior like myself, a helpless animal is being beaten like this. How dare anybody do something like this in my kingdom? He gave chase to the man who was trying to break the bull's leg. And finally he caught up with him. And he said, "Who are you? And why were you perpetrating such a crime in my dominion?" That man said, "I am Kali, the age of Kalyug personified." The present age, according to our Vedic scriptures, is Kalyug, the age of darkness, hypocrisy, cheating and ignorance. So Kalyug said, "I am Kali." Pariksit said, "You need to get out of my kingdom." Kalyug said, "It is impossible. In accordance with the rule of God, we have Satyug, then Tretayug, then Dwaparayug, then Kalyug. It is time for me to exert my influence all over the world. I will have to be given place in your kingdom." So Pariksit realized that even he cannot go against the will of God. If it is ordained that Kali Yuga is to come, it must make its appearance. So Pariksit banished Kali Yuga to 4 places. He said, go to the prostitute houses, go to the gambling dens, go to the slaughterhouses, and go to the places of intoxication. It is in the prostitute houses that cleanliness is finished. It is in the slaughterhouses that the quality of compassion is finished. It is in the gambling dens that the quality of truthfulness is destroyed. And it's in the places of intoxication that the quality of austerity is destroyed. And that is why one who wishes to practice dharma needs to be away from all 4. Having received that order, Kali Yuga put forth a question. He said, I won't find these in your kingdom. Give me something substantial where I can stay. Pariksit said, all right, you can stay in gold. Now, Kali Yuga got a place from where it could exert its influence. The time went by. Pariksit forgot about the episode. He reconstructed the legs of the bull and left. He now forgot about what had happened. One day, he was leaving his palace and he put on his head a golden crown. Unknowingly, Kali was going to exert his influence on him. Because if you get the king, then you get all the citizens. So Pariksit went off into the forest. There he was feeling thirsty. He found a sage called Shamik Rishi sitting in meditation. Pariksit did not realize that the sage is so absorbed, he is oblivious of the world. Pariksit said, can you give me a drink of water? Shamik Rishi did not hear, he kept sitting. So Pariksit should not have felt offended because there was no ego in him. But at this moment, he did feel insulted. There was a dead snake lying there. He picked it up and put it around Shamik Rishi's neck like a garland in the form of an insult, and left from there. Shamik had a young son called Shringi. Shringi had gone to take bath. By virtue of his spiritual power, he came to know what had happened. When he returned from his ablution and he found the dead snake around his father's neck, young Shringi took it as a grave insult. And he delivered a curse that kings are supposed to be protectors of the citizen, and this king has done the reverse to a great sage like my father. I curse him. 7 days from today, the most virulent Takshak snake will come and bite him, which will be the cause of his death. When Shamik Rishi came out of his samadhi, Shringi said, Father, this is what had happened and this is what I have done. Shamik felt greatly sorry. He said, my child, you did a big mistake. Pariksit is a noble king, so what if he made a mistake? We should have condoned it rather than become so furious. And he doesn't even know that you have delivered a curse. At least go and inform him. Shringi obeyed his father's instructions and he went to the palace. He told Pariksit that you are going to die 7 days from today because of a curse that I had pronounced, which I cannot retract now. Pariksit was unmoved. He took that reversal as a blessing. So he said, all right, in that case, I have got 7 days to save myself. Why bother with all these encumbrances of the world? He left his palace and walked off into the forest. That renunciation of Pariksit is exemplary. He did not even say, okay, I'm writing my will, after me you do this, you do that, and my duty is over and complete. I now have a higher duty to perform. So he went off and sat, giving up eating and drinking on the banks of the Ganga in a place which is now known as Shukatal. When the great Pariksit, taking renunciation, sat down there in the mood of austerity in order to achieve spiritual enlightenment, the sages of the universe who came to know that something remarkable is going to take place, they started congregating there, reaching through the aerial pathway. And soon there was Ved Vyas himself, Vasisht, Atri, Pulastya, Pulaha, all the great sages. And they said, O Pariksit, O noble king, we have heard that you were cursed. Pariksit said, O sages, I too felt that I had been cursed. But now I don't think so. The consequences of a curse are bad. And here, I am having the good fortune of getting darshan of noble personalities like yourself. This is not a curse. This is a blessing in disguise. I have a few questions, spiritual curiosity. I will request any one of you to sit on the Vyasasana and answer my doubts. None of them sat. They waited for the one who was qualified. And that was the 16-year-old son of Ved Vyas, Shukadev Maharaj. Shukadev reached that assembly. He was not even wearing clothes. Without taking anybody's permission, the Vyasasana, the speaker's seat was there. He came and sat down. Now Pariksit said, Gurudev, why waste time in doing puja, arati, etc.? Time is of essence. I have got only 7 days left. Without going into unnecessary background details, I wish to ask you what is the means for welfare. So he says, Yat shrotavyam atho japyam yat kartavyam pradhe prabho smartavyam bhajaniyam va bruhi adva viparyayam. O great sage, for one who is close to death, what is the most powerful and effective way to attain the supreme destination? What japa should he do? What kirtan? What vrat, fasting? What holy places should he visit? What austerities should he perform? Should he do fire sacrifices or not? Please satisfy my curiosity. With this question, the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavat ends. There are 12 cantos in the Srimad Bhagavat. Traditionally, more time is spent on the first, but now we need to speed up. In the second canto, Shukadev begins answering. Shukadev as well was so thrilled to hear the questions of Pariksit that he forgot to do his Mangalarchana, prayers of invocation, and began straight away. So the Mangalacharana of Ved Vyas was right in the beginning. The Mangalacharan of Sutaji was in the end of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the Mangalacharan of Shukadev comes in the middle. Shukadev said, "O Pariksit, you have said I have got 7 days in which to die. The fact is, everybody has only 7 days in which to die. There are only 7 days. If you start from Sunday and end on Saturday, you start from Ravivar and end on Shanivar, there are 7 days in the week in which everybody will die. The advantage that you have is, you have come to know your time of death, and so you can prepare for it. Your ancestor in this Surya Vansh was Maharaj Khatwang. He had aided the celestial devatas in their fights against the Daityas. And when the devatas were victorious, they asked Maharaj Khatwang, "Ask us for a boon." Maharaj Khatwang, your ancestor, he said, "How much time do I have to live?" They said, "Ded ghadi." Ded ghadi is less than half an hour. So when he came to know, in that Ded ghadi, he gathered the strands of his mind, brought himself to complete focus, and with the firm resolve of his intellect, he surrendered his mind to the Supreme and attained the ultimate perfection in that limited time. You have 7 days to prepare. So first of all, ensure you have got no fear of death. And how will you ensure that? People come and ask, "Swamiji, how to give up fear? I have got this fear, I have got that fear." The answer is, the cause of fear is, what is it? Attachment. Bhoge roge bhayam kule chuti bhayam vitte kripalat bhayam sarvavastu bhayan vitam bhuvinirnam vairagyameva bhayam. The moment you become virakt, detached, everything is all right, whatever God wants, my job is to surrender to Him, not to give too much importance to my desires. The moment we detach ourselves from desires, Jahi vidhi rakhe Ram, tahi vidhi rahiye, this fear disappears. So Pariksit, you need to rise above fear. Second, you need to finish Rag Dvesh. Hankering and aversion for the world. Give it up. Because if the mind is distracted to the world, how will you take it to God? So rise beyond hankering and aversion. And now Shukadev teaches Pariksit meditation. So he taught Pariksit 2 kinds of dhyan. The first is Virat Ka Dhyan, meditation on the cosmic form of God. God is everywhere. The whole world is a manifestation of His energies. And hence, He is sitting inside everybody. So when you realize the presence of God in everyone, the attachment and aversion, they disappear. There are such inspiring stories of saints and their vision of seeing God everywhere. The story of Sant Namdev of Maharashtra. He was sitting and eating from a plate when a dog came and took the roti and ran. Sant Namdev created the sentiment, Vithalnath has come to eat. So he ran with ghee, "Oh Vithalnath, you are eating the sukhi, dry roti, it will pain your throat. Wait, let me apply ghee on it." He is having divine vision towards the world.
Radhe Radhe, such a beautiful lecture. So many takeaway points today. Wonderful. So we have an exciting interactive session that's going to start off, and I'm so happy to invite Nitinji and Ajayji to take this off. Let me get you here. Yes. So stage is yours, Nitinji and Ajayji.
Radhe
Radhe,
Radhe.
Radhe.
Are you able to hear us?
Am I
Yeah, we are there.
okay? Perfect. What a beautiful discourse today. Radhe Radhe, everyone, once again. Um, this was the day 5 discourse, and this is Ajay and Nitin both welcoming you all to the interactive segment after the discourse. As we go through this interactive segment, we would invite comments or, what are the most insightful things that you learned, the gems of wisdom that you learned from lecture today. So feel free to post your comments. Our team will be highlighting them while we conduct this interactive segment. Specifically, what I really found interesting in the segment today was, how Swamiji narrated how Kali entered the whole sequence of events at the end of Mahabharata and leading to the arrival of Kali Yuga. It's really, the whole narration was so blissful, so divine, yet so power packed with all the wisdoms. Um, as we think about this, Nitin, I wanted to open up with asking you, from the last few days of Bhagavatam's divine discourse, what intrigued you the most?
Yeah, Radhe Radhe, Ajay. I mean, thanks for asking that. It's hard to call out, one thing because to be honest, I feel overwhelmed with the outpour of knowledge that is coming from Swamiji in this wonderful lecture series on Bhagavad Puran, and I'm trying to absorb as much as I can, like a sponge. So, when I heard it for the first time, that of if we consider all of the scriptures like a tree, then Mahabhagavad Puran is like a ripened fruit. It still gives me goosebumps because it's something like Swamiji said and narrated in today's lectures. These are so esoteric concepts, and here Swamiji is bringing that ripened fruit to us. Something which is beyond our intellect. So I feel so privileged to be able to get that knowledge, and it's also solidifying my understanding at a personal level on bhakti because the concept that I had was bhakti. We sit, we chant and recite. It goes much beyond that. There's a huge knowledge, backdrop to it, which needs to be understood in perspective. And especially the beginning of the Bhagavata Puran, where all 6 pertinent questions that were asked, what is the means of salvation, or what is the essence of scriptures that we just spoke about, or what was the purpose of Lord Krishna's descent to this earth. These, I just look forward to these lectures so that I can gain better understanding about these concepts. At a personal level, like I always used to wonder, why does God descend? What do we have to do with these leelas? How is it going to help me in my personal life? These are some of the questions I wanted to understand a better. You have any thoughts about that, especially that question? That was I think the fourth question Suji was asked. So I would like to hear back from you, Ajayji. What's your understanding on that?
Thanks for asking that, Nitinji. I think in one of the beautiful lectures Swamiji has on YouTube, where he explained that Leelas are such a blissful part of God's descension, and he actually explained in that lecture that God has 5 or 6 aspects where his in his name, his roop, his form, Leela, Gun, and Dham, and also the saints, right? Anywhere in these six aspects we attach our mind, it leads to purification. And I personally think the most blissful and most amazing, easy to attach our mind. You sit there and you listen to Swamiji describing these Leelas, and your mind is already in a divine realm. I mean, for that particular duration, your mind doesn't go anywhere else. So to me, it's the most easiest and most powerful way to attach your mind in the divine realm. I want to ask back to you, Nitin. Is there any particular Leela that you like the most?
I can borrow it something from the comment. I think somebody said that they are full of so much of rust that you want to hear it again and again. But since you asked me more particularly, I think there was a story that Swamiji was narrating about Yudhishthir when he met Yaksh when he went to fetch water for his brother. And Yaksh, he tested him with a lot of question. And one of the question he asked him was, what is the most wondrous thing in this world? I think he asked, Kim Ashcharyam. Ashcharya means what is it that is very surprising fact of this world? And I can directly relate it with today's world, with COVID times. We see people passing away, departing. I hear so many stories, especially even in my office. I hear it every second day. But still so many things are happening, but for some reason we think that we are in a secure zone, or it's something happening at some other place, or we will sail through with it. So that feeling does not get sink in that we all have limited time. It could happen to any one of us. That was like very striking. I found it really, really profound, around that part. But like you're talking about this thing, right? Uh, Again, I think one of the things that Yudhishthir was related to was dharma, right? And I always find it a very loaded term, dharma. The more I hear about it, I still don't feel confident that the concept is really stuck in me. So I'd like to hear something from you. What's your understanding on it based on the Swamiji's lectures that you've heard so far?
Absolutely. And as I was hearing you, just noticed there was a user on the YouTube channel who was just commenting on life and how fragile life is. So thanks for bringing that insight. Um, Going on the topic of dharma, I think that's the common connect between the yesterday's discussion or discourse from Swamiji and the thread that kind of also further developed today when we heard Parikshit and the four types of dharma, right? So when I look at that, right, it thinks to every person on this universe, we all think about our own set of duties that we have to do, right? As a parent, we think about our duty is to raise our children. When you go a little higher, we think our duty is to serve the society, and you go a little higher, you start thinking if you're a soldier, you're serving the country, right? And on a broader level, you're serving humanity. So all of these duties are essentially your dharma, and sometimes they conflict with each other, which is with the scriptures and Swamiji has described as dharma sankat. In fact, there's a very beautiful video of Swamiji on YouTube where he describes how do you understand dharma, how do you understand the dharma sankat, which is the conflict of these duties, and how do you resolve it. The most beautiful thing that he described yesterday goes from the Leela that when Bhishma Pitama was at his deathbed, he gave this nugget of wisdom to the Pandavas that the biggest dharma of the soul is to attach the mind to divine feet of Lord. I think that's the most powerful thing. But at practical stage, I think all of many of the spiritual seekers, we all cannot connect to that yet, at least. So we have to get to the path and get to that understanding to get there, I guess.
Beautiful.
With
Yeah, I saw
that,
somebody four legs of dharma. So people are actually interacting, and I'm gaining a lot of information from looking at the chat itself. So yes, Ajay, please go ahead.
absolutely. I think we are running out of time now, so I will pass on back to Pooja ji for closure and announcements.
Thank you for having us over. Radhe Radhe.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. We had an awesome interactive session. We will do this every day. The last few minutes of our program, we will have this kind of a nice interactive session. Keep those comments coming. We learn together. Swamiji's teachings are so deep. It takes a while for it to sink in. So not to take too much time, we have the most awaited MMC challenge video that's going to be just released right away. So let's hop on to YouTube, Swamiji's channel, and just take that knowledge, drink that knowledge. I'll not take any more time. Thank you, Radhe Radhe, and do fill up that form to get more updates and details about today's program. Thank you, Radhe Radhe.